This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I would like to welcome to the show today, Terry Batcher.
Hello.
Good morning. And Harriet Suchet.
And again, love you guys. It's going to be great.
Yes, it is. We got some interesting things today. I wanted to actually cover some laundry and research. I think Harry sent me a message. Let me read this real quick. And it said, I think you're talking about the Ramsey note in this message. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said there are 21 each sets of plain text double L's on the murder note. However, a certain number of them are altered enough to buck the idea that they're serving as double L's. Is that what you're talking about, is the Ramsey note?
Yes.
Okay. And you said 9 each 11s come from the plain text word will, and 7 each 11s come from will before the word speaking. Now, speaking is only mentioned once in the Ramsey note, right?
Right.
So what do you mean 7 each 11s come from will before the word speaking?
In other words, when you count up to you start at the beginning of the number double L's, which we assume double as ones with what we found so far as an 11 hint. There are only seven of them when you count up to the word speaking. After that, you get the full number. So you get so what you have in summary, didn't do a very good job explaining all that. In summary, you get 21 of them, which is a hint at the game blackjack, or 21. 21, get it? There's 21 of them. And then there's 7 of them that come before the word speaking. So you got a 7-11 hint there. And then you have a 911 hint with the total of the word will. And then the rest of the double letter L's total up to the amount that I was talking about, with there being a total of 21 of them. I counted them several times and tallied them to make sure I was accurate, and I'm fairly certain. So I'm thinking he made 3 hints at those games of, 911 was, I suppose it could be a 911 to be called a game of chance, but the 2 games of chance. In other words, blackjack, and I like the jack hint. I hope you do. And then this 7-11 hint. So we have an affirmation of these things. And by the way, I've mentioned briefly that somewhere in the near future I'll postulate that he also did not modifiers, which we'll find on Zodiac documents, and you're going to find on the Ramsey note too. Not modifier means you are flipping you're inverting the statement. He's showing you a way of saying which of his statements were true and which of them were not. And it works out that way on that particular document. So these are just observations, and we can, theorize on them later. So.
Okay, well, I see that Nolan just joined us. Let's go ahead and bring him into the show so he can kind of catch up.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
Oh. That's okay. Good morning. We were just covering more of those 7-11 hints, in which case Terry was indicating that on the Ramsey note, he came up with, 7-11 hints before the word speaking, using the word will, which is another 7-11 type hint. He also talked about the 9-11, which is what is 9-11 again? I mean, obviously, other than
the event of 911. Yeah. Which was
please call the police.
Had happened before the Ramsey note. Those are all
Gotcha.
from the Ramsey note.
Okay. So I wanted to cover that because you said what's that?
I was wondering, can I chime in can I say something
Absolutely.
about the Ramsey note?
Certainly.
Well, if it's about the 7-Eleven, then yes, but we're not covering the Ram.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yes, it is. He's when he brings up about the Ramsey note, I used to say, "Oh my God, here we go, the Ramsey note." But I've done the Ramsey note, and so I sit back and listen because there's so much in there. Yes, the hints about what he's saying. Oh my God, when we do a show on that, you're going to probably have to do a month worth of shows on just the Ramsey note.
Oh, yep, she's right. Absolutely.
Okay. I thought there was something to
loaded for
add.
bear.
I thought there was something to add in regards to that. But all right, so we are covered on the 7-Eleven.
You added a lot yourself, and that when I'd forgotten about Elvis Presley, president, and Viva Las Vegas, and all, I'd forgotten about all that. I was merely linking it to the Paradise thing, and you know, there's a lot of stuff to keep in your mind. And then when you brought it up in the program, I go, oh yeah, geez. So I complimented you for that, Nanette, and that was great workmanship on your part. So
I don't know what I figured out. Most of these things come from you guys, and I just kind of fit the puzzle pieces together.
Your memory is pretty good, though. Your memory is really good, is what I'm saying. You brought all that up.
Well, then let's go to that. Actually brings up my next point for laundry this week is memory. Let's go to the PowerPoint presentation because let's see here. I'm gonna get
one more thing to say, just for this record. I'm getting distortion out of my right ear and I don't know what's right or left here in my connections, but I believe I've sorted out. And I don't know where that source of that distortion is coming from, if it's my equipment or it's on the recording. So just so they know, it seems like the left ear. The left ear sounds fine to me. I'm thinking it's just I'm going to drop this earpiece one too many times.
He says you need new headphones, but this is why we want to come in 5 minutes before so that we can do a sound check and figure this stuff out.
I goofed on that.
Wasting time in the very few minutes that we've got to do this.
I went to the wrong one. I went to 131 instead of 130, and that's why you didn't see me.
Nobody there. Knock, knock. No one home.
No one's home here. So yeah, sorry about that.
Chronological order. If you guys remember chronological order, it will be the first one that's sent is the next one you need to go on to.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to come on about 10 minutes early at least from now on. So.
All right. So up on the presentation, I was reminded by a listener who had sent me an email this last week in regards to the Humble Oil reference I made. Now, way back when I was putting this presentation together, I was collecting a lot of research. I was going down a lot of rabbit holes. And if I thought it was pertinent, I smacked it into the presentation. I kept bumping this one out. This technically should have been back inside of the Zodiac murders, specifically the Lake Herman Road murder, where I was referring to Humble Oil. Now, the YouTuber had mentioned, I think you mentioned Humble Oil on Pod Friday. The first Zodiac murders were at the gate to Humble Oil in Benicia. Witness James Owen worked the night shift at Humble and lived in Vallejo. Many Humble workers used the Lake Herman Road to get to work. Tony. So I don't know who Tony is, but I do want to give him a shout out and say thank you for giving me that simple reminder. I had long since forgotten about having read that, and it really did kind of ring a bell for me because then it made me realize why I had actively placed this into the presentation. So it's not eerie. I mean, if we follow all the clues, like if I count them down as far as Humble is concerned, the fact that it was purportedly done at the gate of Humble Oil off of Lake Herman Road, which I know that Harriet and I have been out to the location, and that actually backs up to a lake. That particular road backs up to a lake, correct, Harriet?
I don't think you and I were there, but yeah, it does because there's a lake. I used to live in that area, so
we did go there. We visited the visiting station to Lake Herman Road or to Lake Herman. So we were there at the phone booth. We were there at the gate.
No, that wasn't me, but
that was you. I have pictures, girlfriend. We did it together.
No, not in Vallejo. Anyway,
it's not in Vallejo. It's off of Lake Herman Road.
Off of 680.
Yeah.
off of
Yeah.
680. Remember, we were checking out that roundabout on one of the overpasses where you thought initially they had buried pretty much that area with.
No, that wasn't me. I only went up with you to the Sierras.
Okay.
Yeah, this was yeah. All right. Anyways, moving on. Basically,
Yeah.
no, I didn't go visit it myself, but so
Yeah.
Humble Oil.
You were
I want to.
transporting.
Okay. If you don't remember going, that's fine. That's fine. Humble Oil has several references. So, albeit this person has now mentioned probably the first clue to Humble Oil based on the fact of where these murders occurred, I just figured it was a lover's lane. And where I was at, it was gated off. You couldn't make it through this particular area to go back into the lake, but you could go to the visitors section where there was actually a phone booth, an old school phone booth, a perfect place for somebody who is traveling around in a makeshift bus like Jack is to, post up for the night. Who knows? I don't know if he ever worked for Humble Oil or not during this particular time frame. I was under the impression he was up in Nyack in 68, 69, but who knows when he actually came back to this area. But Humble is mentioned also in a letter to Tom Voigt, where he says, my humble offer. He's trying to offer his story to Tom Voigt so that it's told correctly for a movie. So that was my first inclusion of Humble. And then there was the letter to Tim Miller, where it is return address to Tom Humble. So now we've got a mix of Tom Voigt and Humble. And then we have the anthrax letters that were mailed in September of 2001. And those particular communications were return address a fourth grader. And then the letter to Tim Miller referred to Super Fudge. And if you look up Super Fudge, it is a book that is written by Judy Bloom, and it was actually written out of Humble, Texas. And it's about a fourth grader who didn't like his name, so he wanted to be called Super Fudge. Now, all of these relations to Humble just kind of keep putting us back together. And we know the Zodiac was notorious for having 2 and 3 different meanings for everything. But I think that this one's becoming a little bit more solid as a meaning.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Harriet, do you have anything to add about Humble?
No, I just that I've done quite a few of the communications lately that had brought up about Humble, Texas, just like you're saying, Humble offer. He was just reconfirming in some of the other things I've done that he did send these communications, and he was, just like you said, trying to get some facts straight, and the movie and all that stuff. Just everything. I'm backing everything you said.
And I misquoted the certificate. I was under the impression that the certificate was Exxon actually buying out Humble, when it turns out that Exxon had been the parent company of Humble, and all of Humble's assets were being turned over to the parent company. So it basically says, effective on January 1st, 1973, Humble Oil and Refining Company will merge into its parent corporation. On that date, all of the rights, assets, and liabilities of Humble will accrue to and be assumed by Exxon Corporation. So they were always the owner, evidently. So maybe we should be looking towards Exxon when I say look to the money. Who had reasons, obviously, in order to want to facilitate these type of events, or the money for that matter. All right, so that brings us back to additional murders that were found in Robert Graysmith's book. I believe that Stephen Dewhurst also talks about them in his book. And we had left off on May 9th of 1973 with Rosa Vasquez on Arguello Boulevard, which was the entrance of Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, California. She was 20 years old, worked for Letterman Army General Hospital as a key punch operator in the Presidio where Paul Stein was killed. Obviously, we know that that's where Donna last worked before she moved to South Lake Tahoe. We did see the Zodiac 13th victim card that had key punch holes for 13 victims in it. that was mailed earlier. She was strangled, dumped nude. The Red Dragon card from April 28, 1970 depicts Don Quixote and the 1912 statue of Miguel de Cervantes Saavedra at Golden Gate Park, where her body was found. So I don't know if through the communications, this indicates that this is a possible Zodiac victim. Do you have anything on this victim, Harriet?
No, I didn't get to do her yet because she wasn't really showing up as a doodler victim, which is actually oh my God, so how they change these cases. So I haven't done her, but she's very close to the same area as Patricia Gidley. So
we haven't gotten to her. I think we're getting ready to come up on her. I did find a little excerpt on her by someone else that said this murder was only the tip of the iceberg that began 47 days earlier when the body of Rosa Vasquez, 20, was discovered close to the Arguello Boulevard entrance of the Golden Gate Park on May 29, 1973. She had been strangled and thrown from the nearby road. Almost 3 years earlier, Donna Ann Last disappeared from the Sahara Tahoe Hotel on September 6, 1970, after finishing her shift as a nurse. A few months earlier in June, she had moved to South Lake Tahoe from San Francisco, where she had previously been employed as a nurse at the Letterman General Hospital in the Presidio near the Paul Stein murder scene. Curiously, Rosa Vasquez was also employed at the Letterman General Hospital as a key punch operator. A key punch is a device for delivering punch holes at specific locations on a card face to carry information for a relevant task. This was apparent on 2 cards possibly sent by the Zodiac when the 13-hole postcard was received on October 5th, 1970, along with the Pines card on March 22nd, 1971, albeit prior to the murder of Rosa Vasquez. She was also a resident of 834 Bush Street, close to the collective of the Good Times newspaper at 2377 Bush Street, where Zodiac suspect Richard Gaikowski worked as an editor for the publication, although the Good Times had produced its last offering by the turn of 1973. So, of course, they are trying to hint back at that Richard Gaikowski connection simply because he worked at a location that was down the street. I know I've worked at plenty of locations down the street from people that I have never met, never seen, didn't even know existed. So there's a good possibility. While he worked there, he had nothing to do with it.
I have a quick point.
Yes.
IBM developed the punch card system. And didn't Jack have affiliations with IBM?
Yes, he was very, very astute with computers and technology.
Okay.
Do any of you make anything of the 13 number on 13 punch holes? Is there any circuitous evidence there?
Just victims, number of victims.
I mean,
number of victims, but it stated that the it's to carry information for a relevant task. So what do you think about the hole punches, Harriet?
Just like they're saying that it has something to do, if I remember correctly, this might also have something to do with what Patricia Gidley did. So that's pretty much it. It's just all computers that NASA would be using, for programming. So that's pretty much my take on that.
Okay.
Because he's hinting a lot about what's going on, and NASA was definitely the ones using computers, and so was the military.
Correct.
And then you also have the Presidio right there. A lot of stuff going on there at the Army and the hospitals and so on. So everything computerized.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that everything that was being done there, in the military, the Presidio, they would be needing to use those programming cards for the hole punches, and you can also send messages a certain way if you punch the holes, everything in code. So,
and that
pretty much
that could also lead back to, I think, like the task circles that were used in one of the Zodiac ciphers, which were then figured out to have been booze balls. Harvey or something. They were how the task was, whether or not it was partially done, halfway done, 3/4 of the way done, or whether or not it
Right.
was the contract was completed.
Right.
So maybe research into what these particular hole punches stand out for if they are meant for a task.
I'm just, the only point I want to make is that I myself am paying attention to numbers involving all this stuff these days. The number 22 caught my attention on the last page. I won't go into why today. And the number 13 caught my attention. And for other reasons we don't need to go into right now, we can talk about those at a later date.
Gotcha.
Because
Okay.
I'm seeing duplicity on it.
So that brings us to the next murder on June 12th of 1973, Yvonne Quillentang in the Bayview district on in a vacant lot. So kind of like the whole Black Dahlia and a few others that are just dumped in vacant areas. Hunters Point equals the Bayview district. She was 15 years old and pregnant. She was strangled. She's possibly a victim on the murder map of Sandy Betts. It says 12 days later, a pregnant Yvonne Quillentang, 15, from Delta Street was found strangled in a Bayview district vacant lot on June 12, 1973. She had been out to buy groceries. So again, another person just up and missing. Well, not missing. She obviously was found,
Dead.
but dead. Another person dead. And then on July 1st, 1973, we had Angela Thomas seen leaving the Presidio at 9 p.m. I do have an excerpt from Dennis Kaufman's book that says during 1973 to 1974, Jack made several trips to the Veterans Hospital in San Francisco. Angela Thomas was killed on Saturday, July 2nd, 1973. I show July 1st. He shows July 2nd. It shows that she was smothered. Jack was in San Francisco on that same day. He was having a test done at the VA hospital. Angela's a possible Zodiac victim, and I think that he got that through Robert Graysmith's book as well. It says that she was a resident in Belton, Texas, who had traveled to San Francisco for a brief visit. Found Benjamin Franklin Jr. High School. We have another school reference. She was found naked and smothered. Angela Thomas's father was an Army sergeant stationed at the Presidio, and this one is listed on the murder maps of Sandy Betts. So finally, Angela Thomas, 16, let's see, traveled to San Francisco. After a day out in Hayward, she visited friends in the Presidio district, but neither of her friends were at home, and she was last seen walking away at 9 p.m. on Sunday, July 1st, 1973. She was found naked and smothered the following day in the grounds of Benjamin Franklin Jr. High School. All four of the murders that we just covered in the San Francisco area had a military connection, a trait often associated with the Zodiac killer. Due to a number of factors, including the wing walker footprint impressions taken from the Lake Berryessa crime scene and possible links to the Vandenberg Air Force Base, due to the lot number of the unspent ammunition at the scene of Domingos Edwards' murders in 1963. I did find a little bit more information on this gal here from another poster who said Angela Thomas was 18. Now we're getting, this is sometimes when I get a little concerned about the stenographic information, Harriet, because the information that's being produced, whether it be through the news or other people, reporting back what they believe they knew or researched, it's ever changing and it's never the same between two. So how do you know you're working with the best information for those stenographic codes?
Oh, well, you mean the ones from the evidence? Because I'm often finding that they're just like you're saying, that there's two different versions. Like Sam Jones said that he saw the victim 2 feet from such and such, and then Officer RFJ saw the victim 2.5 feet. I've just put both information in there. If I'm seeing it for like looking at somebody's books or now their websites, and I see the same information, pretty much whoever they are relaying this information, I just then it comes out with just amazing, much more details. I'm trying to understand why it seems to be the intel community doing something, relaying something, using the FBI, our police, but sometimes Canada's police and their intel community,
okay,
also including the UK. So that's
okay, but that's what kind of throws us off, because then you're picking and choosing the information you want to make a message out of. So it seems like it's rather.
No, I'm not picking. I'm not picking and choosing. If I see it being done, 25 or 50 times, and some of them are credible sources, then you just you're piecing it together. You're figuring out you're decoding it. You're figuring out what the message is saying.
Gotcha. Okay, Terry, go ahead.
One quick point. I just want to take exception with the idea that Black Dahlia's Elizabeth Short's remains were dumped. They really weren't. They were staged. I mean, that morning the sunlight shone through her pelvis. I mean, he put the two body pieces in a certain form, so it was much more than just simply dumped. But that's all. That's all I have.
So this particular poster wrote, Angela Thomas was 18 at the time of her death and had quite a different life than most of us are probably used to or expect. She dropped out of school in 8th grade with the intentions to have a baby. She finally achieved her goal and gave birth to a baby girl named Kayla at the age of 15 or 16. Angela was described as a good mother until she fell into the wrong crowd. That is when Angela became addicted to cocaine. So now we have this cocaine reference, which we keep coming across with Harriet Solves. That is when Angela became addicted to cocaine and resorted to prostitution to fuel her addiction. Kayla, who was 2 at the time of her mother's disappearance, was cared for primarily by her grandmother, Ashley Winslow. Angela did not come around often, but she made sure to call and check up on her daughter frequently. In February of 1990, she was arrested for drug trafficking. In 1990?
That doesn't make sense.
No, that makes absolutely no sense if she died in 1973. So this is how I'm saying, how do we decipher what information? So in February 1990, she was, maybe that should have said 1970.
No, she would have only been 15 at the time. So
this person is indicating she was 18 at the time of her death and 15 or 16 when she had her child. So again, the information is so skewed, it's really hard to kind of go back and put these pieces together. It said, okay, in February of 15, that would have made her about 15. She was arrested for drug trafficking cocaine and had served 5 months in jail before being acquitted of the crime. Ashley said this made her daughter hard, and she believed jail made her daughter's situation worse. Regardless of all that, Angela tried her hardest and even attended a detoxification program at a fellowship house in Lewiston. Despite all her efforts, Angela unfortunately fell back into old ways and was soon on the streets again. She became very distant from her mother, who did go looking for her daughter, but could easily tell her daughter was basically running away from her. She did not want to be found. Ashley's best guess on why her daughter did not want to see her was, she didn't want me to see the way she was. Angela Thomas was... Okay. Angela was last seen entering an apartment, apparently apartment 2A at 73 Knox Street in Lewiston in Lewiston. What? No, it feels like we're in a completely different area.
This is a different Angela Thomas, yeah.
Huh.
Not surprising with this stuff.
Yeah.
No. Right?
Right.
All right. Well, I'm going to pass that one up then, because it looks like that. Shocking. All right. So I know that at this particular point in time, when the Angela Thomas that we're looking at from Robert Graysmith's book from July 1st of 1973, we've already discussed that Jack, July 8th of 1973, Jack claims to be disabled until this date per a work comp appeal suit from November 2nd of 1973. Also, Jack claims to have suffered a motorcycle accident on this day, July 8th of 1973 in Placerville, California. A motorcycle registered to Doris Reynolds, and per a May 7th, 1970 report that Danny Reynolds had stole it from Jack. Another confirmation is the February 13th, 1974 work comp appeal case. 1973, Dewhurst writes that Jack bought 12 acres from Nora's father, which was to become their home in Mount Oncom. And I show that Jack is still fighting for his appeal in February of 1974. So this clearly means that Jack has no income. He's not receiving any disability benefits, because the appeal suit is actually asking for him to be reimbursed for this time on disability in which he had not received any income whatsoever. So he turns around and he buys 12 acres from Nora's uncle.
So no paper income, but he had money.
That's what I'm getting at. Every time he goes to a new location, he's buying that location, and he's not showing any signs of income, let alone enough to purchase something.
Yeah, no paper trail.
No paper trail. On July 9th through July 14th, 1973, Jack is at San Francisco Veterans Hospital having back treatment blocks from on Geary Street, where the next victim goes missing. These are outpatient visits, and I'm sure that Jack would want to stay down to keep up with his little dirty deeds, as I called it, but probably not driving back and forth each day. Go ahead, Terry.
Did you flag it by highlighting the portion you did in yellow? In other words, you're disagreeing with that? Because I disagree with that statement.
What?
I don't think you use any DB Cooper money that, the government automatically knows when they get those notes back.
The government wouldn't have got this. He bought the 12 acres from Nora's uncle.
No, but I'm saying he said he did it with DB Cooper money and not disability. I don't agree with that.
Well, I'm not. I said research the time frame with pink slips and police reports. If Jack bought the 12, I'm not saying he did.
Well,
I'm saying
I'm not saying he did or he didn't. I'm just saying that none of the Cooper money, except for that which has been found, physically found, ever came back to the federal government, according to the federal government. And I don't believe that they could falsify that. That's like if you wrote a check in your checkbook, you know what checks you get back and which you don't. It's that simple. Well,
we would say it's that simple. It's got to get back to the federal government for them to flag it if they want to flag it. So if it's being held or in places.
But if it's a private transaction, the government wouldn't have anything to do with it.
That's my point.
Yeah. But the government, if somebody then spent the DB Cooper money and it finally made it back into the banking system, they'd know right away. And that's what they're saying, that over the years, only with stuff that's been accounted for was the stuff that turned up on Tenna or Tina Bar. And
that may be all that they want us to know. And if this stuff trickles in many years later or otherwise.
I can't speculate. I'm just saying the official word. I'm not saying the official word's true either, but just saying that
someone's spent away somewhere.
It's like, you know what, for it to, but you hear about all of these people who launder money, or they, are mattress people, they've got $1 million in their mattress. They never put it in the bank once in their life. At what point does it actually get recirculated, and how long were they actively still looking for those serial numbers to begin with?
Collector's item. It's now a collector's item that the underworld trades in as a joke. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Now, that brings us to Gidley finally, Harriet. So on July 12th, 1973, Nancy Gidley was last seen on Roadway. I'm not sure how it was spelled per Dewhurst. Roadway Inn, 895 Geary Street, San Francisco, California. The body is found in Richmond at George Washington High School, so another high school dump. On July 15th, 1973, she was nude and strangled. She was also stationed at Hamilton Air Force Base, which we know Jack has knowledge of and was actually stationed at himself. She was stationed there between 1967 and 1968 as an X-ray technician. She moved from Idaho to San Francisco, claiming the Chronicle, which that made that even more interesting, but they deny that. Maybe Jack is blaming them for lack of care in his back injury or for the psychiatric issues associated with MK Ultra. Either way, he is taking serious hits at people who are working within the medical field. This one is also listed on the murder maps, and Dennis had a little bit to say himself. He said Nancy Gidley was strangled on July 13th, 1973. This crime occurred in San Francisco as well. Jack was hospitalized, he says, even though Dewhurst books indicate that it was outpatient therapy that he was actually receiving. So hospitalized in San Francisco on July 9th, 1973, and released on July 14th, 1973. The very next day in Santa Rosa, Davis Caroline is reported missing. Sometime later, her corpse is found. Now, I threw something else in here too, because I just thought it was interesting, but it was Dennis talking about him and Jack standing next to the river, and he Jack looked at Dennis and said he was going to teach me how to swim. He grabbed me and threw me in and said, swim or drown. The river was very swift, and I remember finally making it out way down the stream. Looking back, I don't think he planned on me making it out of that river. When I came walking back, he just kind of played it off by telling me that was the way his dad taught him how to swim.
Oh, yeah, Gosh. That was common. Much more common than you might think.
My father, too.
Yeah, my uncle drew. My stepdad did the same thing.
My uncle threw me in.
Yeah.
Not so strange, but in the whole scheme of things, we didn't have a possible killer that threw us in.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the
They
gravity of
would
that.
save you if they had
And
to.
then it looks a lot different to be thrown in water that's really moving too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so before being callously gunned down in the Presidio Heights district, Nancy Gidley, almost 4 years earlier on October 11th, 1969. So this was the Paul Stein. Her body was found on Sunday, 15th of July, 1973, nude and strangled in the grounds. And got that. Formerly stationed, got that, which apparently nobody was able to verify. X-ray technician arrived in San Francisco in mysterious circumstances, supposedly invited to be the maid of honor at a wedding, which apparently nobody was able to verify.
Yes.
What's
That's
that?
where I can come back. Yeah, that's she was the maid. She was attending the wedding for somebody related to Bracewell, Ronald Bracewell.
Bracewell comes up, right?
Yes, that's the Texas I-45 connection victims. I'm trying to find it where I found it, but yes, that's the wedding she attended, and she was also working at the Hamilton Air Force Base, doing something with something that Ronald Bracewell invented, that she was able to interpret pictures for the West Coast NORAD. She was very, very intelligent and high level. That's the X-ray stuff that she was using and working with. So it was something that Ronald Bracewell had invented.
So do you have a solve on this one?
I'm looking exactly for it, but
okay.
anyways, it's a Texas I-40. Robert Abel knew Ronald Bracewell and the NASA connection there, and he allegedly, according to the solve, also attended that same wedding that has to do with the family members, and that he's the one that killed Patricia Gidley, but Jack and his crew had the information. So that's what I got. I'm looking for
that's who we're talking right now is Nancy Patricia Gidley.
Yes.
And she was
Here we go.
killed.
Here we go. I found it. I found it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's let's see. Okay, let me read the solve that I have. It's in America's Most Evil, and it has to do with Bracewell and Gear. And I got to be careful because some of the stuff that's in these solves are very, very disgusting.
Okay,
so I'm going to try to watch what I'm reading. But it's saying where that about Miss Gidley attended the wedding. And,
okay, so read it. So read it. We need to read it.
I'll do it real quick. Yeah, it says. Then this is from the Texas I-45 killer victims, Bracewell and Gear, 1974. Evidence and clues. Then it just says Dick Nixon, NASA pest Robert Abel confessed to Tarrant County DA 62571 killing of dentist's daughter. I avenge shoeless Janice Joplin. Then found Colette Wilson friend Allison, the zip code 77550, Houston apartment via NASA Ali Barra and her brother NASA Paul Craven, then axes sis in Houston and Perlin. Brooks Bracewell, mother, married in 1973, Myrtle Walker, aka Marjorie Ellett, who owed Saudi Prince Group $50,000. Cousin Miss Gidley attended the wedding, so did Robert Abel, and they had a one-night stand. He strangled and dumped Patricia at the George Washington High School gym in San Francisco, CA, zip code 94121, area 71173. And then it goes on to say on 9674, Brooks' grandfather Ronald Bracewell met Georgia Gear and Brooks at the U Totem 77539 zip code area, Brazoria County. Go to El Rancho, the motel around noon. Then it says at the zip code 77539, Brazoria County, at the motel, Diplomat Hotel boy, John Edward Walsh, II, paid them $170 each and make a XXX 35 millimeter movie as they kiss, and certain things we can't say on the air. Al Ibarra, Ronald Bracewell I, Robert Abel II, sent it to Harry Lang, who knows Hollywood. George Lucas likes Bugsy Siegel, sort Glick and Wisconsin Goon Balestri, 1976 Vegas Strip pit site. Shy Abel seen El Rancho Motel Teen and her best friend Brooks on 9674, picked them up, kidnapped them, hit and shot them with a .357 Smith & Wesson, axed their heads, Brazoria County, IO, documents in order. Then he's signing it off, and this is in 3/16/81, Zodiac Terrence Jack. So
now,
that's
one of the things, one of the things that I wanted to mention that really stood out to me there, which is information that most people may not know. You talked about a XXX. Now, it's very specific, that information, XXX movie, because in the I-45 and the League City death murders of Laura Miller, which was Tim Miller's daughter, Tim Miller said at one point in time he had gone to visit the grave site where her body had been dumped, and laid on that was, I think, either one or two discs that listed on them XXX, which I guess he assumed to have been XXX movies. He said he never watched them himself. He turned them over to the police. Of course, we probably will never figure out where they come from again. But I find it interesting that connection being made there, that you're saying that these XXX rated movies were created in your solve, and then he subsequently finds these actual discs that say XXX, which he then assumes is a XXX movie itself.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just thought maybe you're going down the Super X line or one of the Zodiac.
The XXX.
Shot with a Super X, so. But no, I get it.
I just wanted to add, when I saw that Miss Gidley, and the relation of a cousin and Ronald Bracewell, who has the Bracewell Observatory in Stanford. Oh my God, he's very high up there. He invented a lot of things. I had to double check, and I, ran down quite a few rabbit holes to find who they could be related to, and so on and so forth. And so this verified the solve that she attended. That's the wedding she attended to. And then so did Robert Abel. So that actually
and there's this tie back to the Chronicle.
Yes. Oh, definitely, because.
Well, it says that she told her close friends her intention was to work as a freelance writer at the Chronicle newspaper, but the staff at the Chronicle, again, had never heard of her purportedly. So
that would make her what they call a stringer, and so therefore she wouldn't be an employee, but she'd be like an independent contractor. They call them stringers. The journalism,
and that's if they by her story, that's when she would get paid. So she could write all she wants, but it's whether or not it's picked up and produced, right?
Right, published. Yep.
So I have one quick question for Harriet. What was your source that you worked? What sources did you use to work that solve?
Oh, no. We're not. That stenographic stuff that we were talking about earlier.
Oh, stenographic?
It's not stenographic. It's just the information of, through newspapers and.
Okay, so that's basically, if I say stenographic, that was my interpretation of what you did to come to the solve. But you used information from newspapers, reports, and from the evidence. Okay, well.
That's not stenographic. That stenographic is something that's embedded into a note.
If there's not a letter involved, then she used the information she researched to create that message.
No, I'm just putting what was relayed through the UPI, and it's I can read everything and what the police reported. It's the same.
That's what I'm saying. So it's the information that you
so
researched.
It's a compilation, is what you're saying.
Correct. It's not from a letter. If it's from a letter, we'll have a letter. If it's not, if we don't have a letter, then she didn't do it from a letter.
but it's a compilation of information. I like it. Okay, it's cool.
All right. So on July 15th, 1973, Carolyn Nadine Davis, 15 years old, becomes the next Santa Rosa hitchhiking murder on Highway 101 at Garberville, where her grandmother lived. She was a runaway from Anderson in Shasta County, last seen July 15th by a grandmother who dropped her off at a store in Garberville along Highway 101. She intended to hitchhike south, and her body was found in the same place as the first two victims of the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders. She, let's see, her body was found where Weber and Sterling's bodies were found in the Santa Rosa hitchhiking murders, found Porter Creek Road on Franz Valley Road. Strychnine poisoning, I guess, was the ultimate, and this kind of relates back to the mescaline murders and the poisonings in 1970 that were in Vallejo and Napa. She is on the murder map for Betts, and the coroner believes time of death was approximately July 20th, 1973. So she must have been held for approximately 5 days from the time she was abducted. Police believes that she may have been held for 5 days before her death, which is kind of, again, in suit with some of the stuff that Harriet is solving that states that these people were being used, right?
Yes, that they were kidnapped, and definitely. I definitely got a lot on Caroline Nadine Davis. And it's really sad what happened to her. A lot of. So if you want me to go ahead with that, it's just pretty much.
Do you have that solved quickly? Do you have that solved quickly?
Definitely. Definitely. It's saying Nixon, I.O., documents in order. Bobby the cook, the trusted informant, who is Robert Gentile, by the way. Anyways, last 3/4/72, I record M.O. Saudi Prince Young girl fan deal off. That was Kimball Allen, paid off John Edward Jr., Lori Lee father, 30G, scene 95404. Caroline Nadine Davis and father watch nude Kim Wendy Allen bail Narlo run down choke Kim, and Caroline Nadine Davis dog attack sends Ken to the emergency room. 7/14/73, 8:06:06. Walsh son Dan Rand, foster mother Lauren Davis, grandmother ID. FF, that's fully furnished, rural route address, phone records. Then 7/15/73 at 1:01 p.m. Ursuline stepsister Reve give Davis ride 9542 Garberville to Modesto 3:58 and 10 seconds p.m. Santa Rosa offer Fad lip gloss made from peyote, 8 meal laced with strychnine, and afterwards Davis, OD, and Ken Narlo throw from car at 19:36:09 p.m. That's like 7 p.m. in 4 feet Yvonne and Marine location, 2.7 miles north of Porter Creek Road, Santa Rosa, California, 7/19/73. The bones, and then he's saying it's signed Zodiac.
Huh.
So that's just what the evidence too. It's the same police reports and evidence. It's pretty simple, the evidence. Everything that's described that where she was. Anyways. Yeah, it's pretty bad, and there's more details. They're very upset as what happened with this young girl. She witnessed what happened with the deal being off on Kim Wendy Allen, whose father her father invented the laundromat concept. The guy was rich. He invented Whole Foods. Well, it was Real Foods, and then it became Whole Foods, and Jeff Bezos owns that. Anyways.
Okay, so we got about 2 minutes left. Is there any questions in regards to that solve? No, okay. I got about 2 minutes left. I'm going to try and jam through some of this information. So on July 22nd, 1973, we have the murder of Nancy Fusey, found in Redding, California, after going dancing in Sacramento, California. She was stabbed 29 times. The cause of death was obscured by decomposition, but I'm betting that the 29 stabs is probably a pretty good bet. Found near Redding, California. Mike Fusey is a son, or let me see, McNulty's oldest brother, 44. So Mike Fusey, son of Nancy Gidley, told jurors that he was 7 and Angela was about 5 when their mother was murdered. Nancy Fusey, 22, was living with her 5 children in a hotel room. Now she has 5 children at the age of, do I even say 22? Nancy Fusey, 22, was living with her 5 children. I know, in a hotel room after separating from their father over abuse and unfaithfulness. Hadley had said earlier, she disappeared in 1973 after going out dancing at a Sacramento area nightclub. Now, I don't know who's watching the 5 kids back at the hotel room, but hey, girl, get your book on.
It wasn't me.
Let me. Okay. So I think that's pretty much it. Our recording has gone over the 50 minutes. We were just about to hit the Albany, New York letter. So I will see you guys back for the next one. Everybody have a great weekend. Take care. We need to sign off at this point. Thank you guys for being here.
Bye
Anybody
now.
want to say?
Thank you.
Bye now. We'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Oh,